Welcome to That's a Tap with CT and DJ. Today's episode, we're going to talk about the big pay-per-view, first of the year, 2024. We rang in the new year with the first episode, DJ, and here we're going to dive into the nitty-gritty. How you feeling, bro?
Feeling amazing. Straight off the press conference. Not that I was at the press conference, but watching it on video. Man, like me. I'm super hyped for these pay per view events, especially with the track record the UFC has set. You're destined to get a good card after another, and they've obviously done it again. You wouldn't really say compared to the last three cards. Okay, obviously maybe in terms of the strength of the card, probably not up there. Still a very solid card. I think the main event sort of overcrowds everything else. I think it's a very solid main event. Absolutely love the build up. I have loved the build up to this fight, and I think I'm super excited for that. And also there are some solid fights within that card as well. So man, I'm excited. Um, Tell me, CT, what about you? Like, what are you most looking forward to in this UFC 297 card?
Yeah, same with you. The main event is huge. We've been waiting a while for this. All the hoopla that it's brought has just added another element. We'll talk about that as well later in the episode too. Everyone will talk about a quick reaction to the first fight night of the year
Yeah,
where Ankalev got
yeah,
the win over Johnny Walker. We'll
yeah,
talk about two huge fight announcements that have been made since
yeah,
the last episode. We reacted to the Poirier um, um, fight as well as the other one that was announced. And then, yeah, we've got two huge new announcements that we'll hit on. But firstly, yeah, it's all eyes on 297
yeah,
UFC. We inch closer to 300. Uh, but yeah, this one's a huge one to ring in the new year, DJ. In terms of like main event and
yeah,
my thirst to see these two fighters, it's at least at a 9 out of 10. I think ever since Strickland shocked the world, I've been really wanting to see him fight Dricus, and
yeah.
finally we get to see it. What are you thinking?
Man, it's super exciting. Like I said, like I mean, the middleweight division is an exciting division. Obviously, a very big division for us down under, purely because we got Israel Adesanya, who's a long reigning champion in that division. From our region, the ANZ region, we got the great Robert Whitaker. He fights out of Sydney, so it's a big division for us. Man, look, uh, I was just trying to look it up. I think there was a stat that came out. It's just been, I believe, since 2019, this is the first time we're not having Israel Adesanya in a middleweight championship fight. So that's first of all, man. Like kudos to that. Like what a great legend, what a champion, to be able to sustain that level of success. At that level of competition, and that storyline, which is still continuing, and I'm excited to see what the next chapter is. To be able to go through that rivalry, I think, which was the peak of his championship reign, was that rivalry with Alex Pereira, and sort of how that ended. And you got the knockout of the year honors across multiple platforms, which was well warranted. And I think I don't think his business with Strickland's done. I think we're going to see more of it, regardless of who wins. Come Sunday. But man, outside of that, like I said, after 2019, which is when he fought for the interim title, we are now seeing someone who's not named Israel Adesanya uh, fighting for that championship, which is obviously you got Sean Strickland and Dricus Du Plessis. Uh, quite. The thing is, man, I always thought if we had a middleweight championship fight, and if Israel Adesanya was not there for some reason, I, just naturally expect a Robert Whitaker to be the other name that will be attached to it. And look, surprisingly, 2 years ago, if someone had told us, neither Robert Whitaker or Israel Adesanya will be fighting for a championship title fight back, all the way in 2024 January, we wouldn't have believed it. But right now, it is a reality. We've got Sean Strickland, who, absolutely dominated Israel Adesanya in his last fight in Sydney in September, shocked the world, one of the biggest upsets, claimed the championship title, is a unique character in himself, true to himself as well. Obviously, he never represents something he is not. controversial figure. Obviously, he's got a big fan following behind him. People do resonate with him because of how much similarity that he shows up there on that big stage that resonates with the general public. I think that's one of the main reasons why he's got such a big fan following. And we got Dricus Du Plessis, who's just relatively new to the UFC. He's man. There's no question he deserves the title shot. We spoke about this a while back. If you beat Robert Whittaker, and especially the way you beat Robert Whittaker, you deserve to be, fighting for that title, and he did, right? The fight, the matchup that we were all looking forward to with that bad blood was Israel Adesanya versus Dricus Du Plessis. It did not, come to fruition because of what happened in September. Nonetheless, now we're getting a championship title fight. The two guys that are fighting for this title, there's no questions about whether they should be there. Right, without a doubt, they deserve to be where they are now. There was no doubt in Strickland capturing the title, and there was no doubt left when Dricus defeated Robert Whittaker. There was no controversy; it was clean, and bam! Now we've got that title fight. Both these guys fighting for the title. I'm excited not only for this fight, but what comes after. I don't think there's going to be an immediate rematch for Strickland if he were to not retain the title. So I think UFC will be very keen to set up that Adesanya fight. We'll talk about what's next probably in our recap episode. But man, yeah, that's my thoughts on the main event. Skill wise, City, what do you think? Obviously you've seen Dricus fight, you've seen Strickland fight. How do you see this fight play out? How do you see them match up?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind, man, is both won't take a back seat. They both will come forward, and they've both been aggressors in their most recent fights. Whitaker, we saw him struggle with the fact that Dricus just kept coming forward, man, and he hits like a truck. And I'm really curious to see whether Strickland, who was the aggressor against Izzy in that title win, him come forward and just keep throwing as well. So when two bulls collide, man, like what's gonna happen? that's that's what I'm
Absolutely.
thinking. But initially, I'm thinking Dricus's power, like something just
Yeah.
really stood out to me. Strickland has been finished before, and it was the not the one before the title fight, the one before that, wasn't it?
Yeah, so he no, not so he had two fights since that knockout of Alex Pereira. So he obviously got knocked out by Alex Pereira, and then he had the fight against Kananaya, which he lost, but it was a controversial loss. It was the vast majority of us thought that he did win that fight, including myself. And then he obviously fought Imavov, beat him. Then he fought Abbas. Stepped in on short notice and fought Abbas, beat him as well. And then, oh, maybe not. Abbas was on a short notice one. The Imavov one was a short notice one. And then, obviously went in to fight for the title. Look, it is a bit removed from, I guess, like what, a couple of years now. But yeah, you're right. Like, I mean, if you can land, Alex Pereira has proven if you can land flush on Sean Strickland, you can, knock him out, put his lights out. And, you're right. Riker seems to have that X factor. It's an interesting matchup, man. Whichever way you think about it, you're always undecided as to who to go with, because every 5 minutes I'm sort of changing my prediction, because they both, the more you sort of think about it, they both possess the ability to get the win. And you were spot on in terms of their fighting style. They fight with they come forward, constant forward pressure, and I think that fight's going to play out the same way. I don't think either guy is going to back down. Right, I do feel that Dricus will be using a lot of his wrestling. I also think Strickland's takedown defense is very underrated. I think he's a good grappler, and we will probably get to see that in this fight. I do feel that majority of the fight will play standing up purely because of that. Dricus will try to take it to the ground, and then also Strickland trying to keep it up on the feet. And they seem to have this. Not, I wouldn't say there's no bad blood, and we obviously saw that in the press conference today as well. It's just more sort of I guess, a dislike towards each other, as what stemmed with the events of 296 in the crowd, and then obviously the comments that were passed in the previous press conference. I do feel, they're gonna walk in with the point to prove. I think their egos will come into play as well. Neither guy would want to sort of let's just say someone gets hit in the face. I think they'd want to return that, and that's going to play a big factor too. Especially Sean Strickland. I mean, the way he loves. He always talks about he loves this beautiful violence that he causes. He loves being hit in the face, and he loves to return that favor. So I think we're going to see some fireworks. I do believe. I mean, look, I hope I don't jinx this, but I don't expect this to be a boring fight at all. I think it's going to be fireworks. I don't think it goes the distance as well. But yeah, man, I'm still struggling to pick a prediction. Like I said, I mean, yeah, Strickland's takedown defense is good, and I just said that 2 minutes ago. And then I think of how good of a grappler wrestler Robert Whitaker is, and Dricus was able to take Whitaker down and control him on the ground, not just take him down, control him on the ground. So yeah, like it's quite interesting, man. But another point you made, CD, that really hit home was how big Dricus is for this division, even when matched up against Whitaker. And I also then was again surprised at how equally big Strickland was when they were facing off. I'm like, oh, I expected Dricus to be the bigger guy, but I just don't think so. So yeah, man, like it's an interesting. I like these kind of fights where you can't pick a winner. It kind of lets you go into those fights with the unknown, like sort of more so than some of the other fights, because there's always that unknown attached to every single fight. Anyone can beat anyone on any given day, right? All it takes sometimes is one shot to put someone's light out. That's it, or you get caught. But this seems to have more of that aura of the unknown surrounding it, like who is going to win. So yeah.
Yeah, completely agree with you, man. I think a part of that means like both of them, I feel, are maybe a little bit premature to their success. As in, like maybe if we had been quizzed, a year ago, we wouldn't have predicted Dricus and Strickland to both be at the summit of the
Yeah.
division. Maybe I thought Izzy would carry on his dominance a little longer, but the reason it's so difficult to predict who's going to win this is because they're both quite new to the game in terms of like I mean I haven't really paid a lot of attention to Dricus outside of his most recent 2-3 fights.
Yeah.
I didn't really expect him to dominate Whitaker that much, but yeah, here we are. Before I get your prediction, I guess I'll go with mine, and the
Yeah.
fact is I think Strickland, a lot of his success against Izzy looked, a part of that matchup, as in it was a favourable matchup for him.
Yeah.
I don't think Izzy was in the right space. Yeah, he was obviously fatigued, got rocked early. I think was Dricus, to me, in his fight against Whitaker, that just keeps standing out as a guy who just looks really ready
Yeah.
to beat anybody in this division.
Yeah.
So yeah, whilst I think it's going to be a close fight,
Hmm.
if I had to pick one, I'm leaning towards Dricus right
Yeah.
now as my prediction, with maybe a third round stoppage.
Oof. Man, bold prediction. I want to take some dollars and put a bet on. Hey, look, absolutely. I think another, just before I give my prediction, something that I want to mention also is the drive that Dricus has when he is talking about wanting to capture that gold, be the first South African champion, fighting out of South Africa, and sort of what this means to him. And he seems to be a man possessed. And not just that, he also talks as if he already is a champion, that he's already got that belt. It's a matter of formality to go in on Sunday. So that does, impress me, which also, again, makes it a lot hard to predict. I also think Sean Strickland's extremely underrated. I think he's an extremely good fighter. I think the persona, or like, no, it's not a persona, it's him. Sort of what we see outside of the cage. Sometimes we let that dictate sort of who he is and how he is as a fighter. But I think you put all that aside and you look at him as a fighter, I think he's actually a phenomenal fighter. His defense is extremely solid, and the way that he fights, it's got obviously a heavy boxing style, but it's very effective, very impactful. The way he throws his punches, and we don't talk enough about his cardio vascular skill, ability. He's able to sustain the same amount of pressure going into the fifth round as he had done in the first round. So I think all this come into play, right? And look, in addition to that, my prediction is I think Sean Strickland's going to get the win. It's going to be and still, and I think the reason, not just the ones that I've outlined, because the same applies to Dricus as well. Like now pre Whitaker, we've seen Dricus tire out. But we also know the nose surgery that he spoke about. Now, we didn't get to see enough in the Whitaker fight because it only lasted a round and a half, but he didn't seem to tire there, and he did seem to have a lot more energy. So maybe the cardio is going to cancel out. Maybe the strength's going to cancel out, right? But we also need to look at beyond these fighters, the two teams. Like I don't know enough about I wouldn't say I don't know enough about the team, but we're more aware of Strickland's team, and we know the geniuses behind the gym Extreme Couture and what they've been able to achieve in the last 12 months with Francis Ngannou, with Sean Strickland, with Chris Curtis, etc. So, man, like I think the game planning, the coaching staff behind Strickland are going to play a big factor too. And we saw that they were able to game plan for Israel Adesanya within a short period of time because it was a short notice fight, and we saw how effective that was. And it is underrated, and I guess again Sean Strickland doesn't get enough credit as to how much he follows his coach's game planning and advising. And we always perceive him to be this madman who goes in and throws down, which he is, but there is a method to his madness, and I think we sometimes fail to grasp that. So with all this in mind, I'm going to go with Strickland. And still, having said that, man, it's such a close fight. It's honestly a coin toss. This is just my prediction that I'm putting in there, but it's a coin toss. Both guys equally deserving of the win as well. Let me throw that in there as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. We both make cases for either fighter winning, and I'm not leaning towards Dricus heavily.
Yeah,
I'm thinking I can
yeah,
see a pathway to him win, and
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely.
yeah, that's the only reason I've gone with that.
Also,
Yeah,
I don't know if you know this, city, but Dricus was a two division champ in the local organization that he fought in South Africa.
that's big.
I think it's
That's big. Yeah,
EFC. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah. I could see him doing that. Yeah, his wrestling is awesome.
yeah.
Has he been really tested? You make a great point. 5 rounds. Has someone really taken him in the UFC in this division? We know the cardio on Strickland's next level, right?
Absolutely.
He's just going to keep going. So yeah,
Yeah.
we hope as fans we get the best main event to open the year's pay-per-view. Um, we got to hit on some other segments. So let's really be concise with hitting on the rest of
Yeah.
the Pennington, the rest of the card. We've got Pennington Silva,
Yeah.
Magnay,
Yeah.
and then Curtis and Allen rounding
Yeah.
out the main event. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, core main, obviously, we've got Raquel Pennington taking on Mayra Bueno Silva. Um, they're both coming off wins, solid wins for that matter. Uh, Although it is again another similar to the middleweight championship that we spoke about, where after many years we're having a championship fight with Israel Adesanya not being part of it. So also, I think this dates a lot further back, I believe, since Holly Holm fought um, Misha Tate, that we are not having either Ronda Rousey or um, Amanda Nunes for this fight, for this title fight. Having said that, it also seems something's missing because we obviously had that big fight between Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena. They won one. Obviously, the second fight was pretty much a shutdown, to be honest. So we didn't need to see that third fight. But given being the only person who'd given Amanda Nunes that loss and having captured that title, I feel like Juliana Pena should have been the one. We know why she's not, because she's injured. So it does seem like, I mean, Juliana Pena came out and said the same things. Like, it feels like an interim title. You do get that feeling. I mean, not to say these ladies don't deserve to be. Absolutely, again, they do deserve to be there, and they've done the work. They've got the wins to back it up. But I do feel like the winner is going to go and fight Juliana Pena. But until that fight happens, it's more like the championship's not solidified. It's interesting, man. There's another again. And you look at the embedded videos and sort of hear these ladies talk about what this means to them, media day interviews. It tells you, and especially I think Mayra Bueno Silva, when she talks about her championship aspirations and sort of her journey. You can tell how much it means to her as well, and I feel like she's putting all her energy into it and wanting to capture this. She's pretty good, especially in grappling, man. Like if she gets a hold of you, it's going to be a long night. And we've seen Raquel Pennington sort of have a tough time in certain fights. Now, look, since then she's changed camps. The most noteworthy loss that again sticks in my mind is when she fought Amanda Nunes for the title previously, and where she, almost quit on the stool. She was telling her coaching staff that she didn't want to go back in. But then, look, since then she's made a lot of changes. The team's changed, and she's been on a win streak. So she's on the right path. I'm just giving the edge to Myra because I feel like she's coming in with a point to prove, and she really, really, wants to get this win. And I think she's putting the preparation behind it.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I think this should be feel like an interim, but I think it's really evenly matched.
Yeah,
Two promising young fighters, and I think
yeah.
it's a case of who takes their chance. I like your selection. I'm going to go with it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, they showed the most amount of animosity in that press conference. There's more back and forth. I mean, look, once the embedder dropped and I saw Dricus and Sean Strickland hugging it out, I knew okay, well, the press conference will be a little bit more civil. Because prior to that, I was thinking, how is this going to play out? Because the last time they were close to each other, they had a punch on. Whereas obviously, I wasn't expecting any fireworks after that in the press conference. That is. But then, I didn't see Pennington and Silva going at it. But that came out of nowhere. So they seem to display the most amount of back and forth in their animosity. But yeah, man, like, look, a solid fight, decent fight. Um, and then we also got that makes that. Then we make our way down the main card. Who do we have there? Like we got Mike Mallott taking on Neil Magny. I mean, Magny's had a bit of a tough few fights, especially not just the fight with Ian Gary recently, but everything that transferred. Really unfortunate, to be honest. Like I do believe Neil Magny's a really good guy, and he speaks about how much that sort of impacted everything, which was really unfortunate. You don't want to see that happening. You know what I mean? But man, look, now he's got a new fight in his hand. Again, he goes into enemy territory fighting a fan favorite, which obviously doesn't do him any favors in terms of cheers. So we heard a lot of boos there in that press conference. But again, solid fight, man. Like again, unfortunately, whether he likes it or not, is sort of now becoming like that gatekeeper at welterweight. You beat Neil Magny, sort of make your way into that top 10. Mike Mallott has been a prospect who's been rapidly rising. Is uh, look, he's had finishes so far. He's been a hot topic in terms of prospects to watch out for. So this will be a big fight for him if he's able to make a statement. If he's able to stop Neil Magny, I think that you know plays a massive part in terms of how his next chapter of his career is going to shape up. And we're seeing a lot of exciting prospects. Now sort of forming the new age of that welterweight division. And we've seen the likes of Usman, Colby, Leon Edwards, champion currently, Bilal Mohammed. The Burns, the staple of that welterweight division. But now we see some of these exciting, explosive new blood coming in. Not just coming in. Oh, Stephen Thompson, I shouldn't forget him. Not just coming in as just fresh new faces, but also with the skill set to back it up. These are all well-rounded fighters. At the top of the list for me personally, call me biased, is JDM, Jack Della Maddalena. We got Ian Gary. We got Shapka Rakhmonov. A lot of people are saying he's going to be the next champion. So yeah, man, there's a lot of new names, and add Mike Mallott to that list. And if he's able to secure a win against Neil Magny, someone with that name value, I think we're going to see more of him, and we're going to see some more tougher matchups or higher ranked matchups for him.
Yeah, definitely, man. Really pumped for this one. I think it's the three fights for me are the top three for the
Yeah,
card that I'm most looking forward to. I do like Chris Curtis,
yeah,
but I think he's moving up. But I think he's been featuring a lot on fight nights as well, and prelims coming up. Alan, what are your thoughts on those? Yeah, those two last fights
Man,
of the main card.
Chris Curtis, man, I just love whenever he fights. I'm just pulling up something to. Yep. Okay. So I want to check his opponent's record. Yep. How do you say his name? I don't want to butcher the name. Mark Andre. Oh, I'm just going to stick to Mark Andre. All right. So, man, look, Chris Curtis, action man, right? Again, same comes from the same gym as Sean Strickland, good friends, similar fighting style, just steps forward, brings the heat. Um, great matchup because Mark Andre has had some great finishes leading up to this fight as well. So that's one of those those fan favorite fights that you get where both guys are going to come in and throw down. You can even it sort of has that fight of the night tag attached to it as well, apart from the main event, obviously. Um, I'm very much looking forward to it because I mean, whenever Chris Curtis fights, this entertainment guaranteed. So definitely we'll be tuning into that fight. And man, like the main card opener, to be honest, is my second favorite fight in the main card, if you ask me. Purely because Arnold Allen, man, is a well-rounded fighter. He's obviously coming off a loss to none other than the great Max Holloway. So that does not define how good you are. You can't count him out of that loss. I think he's coming back with a point to prove, and he is taking on the undefeated phenom in Mosvar Evloev, who's another massive prospect in the featherweight division. And again from that Russian region. So you know what to expect with them in terms of very strong grappling, sambo style grappling, but he's also really good on his feet. So look, man, and then you got Arnold Allen again, who's well rounded, who was undefeated up until he bumped into Max Holloway. So it's gonna be exciting, man. Like so, yeah, that's gonna be a massive fight. Especially, I feel like that's got number one contender attached to it. I feel right. So yeah, let's wait and see how that fight pans out because there is a featherweight title fight happening next month with our very own Alex Volkanovski. So yeah,
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm with you. I think yeah, all fights in the main card are solid,
yeah,
and I'm really keen to see what plays out. I think the prelims, nothing catches my eye, but of course I've seen some lead up, and I know there's some contender series animosity as well.
yeah.
There was some controversy previously.
What about? Are you looking forward to the Chris Air Jordan fight?
Yes,
Sorry,
always
Charles
entertaining.
Jordan. Yeah,
Charles
always
Jourdain.
entertaining, man. Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to that fight. Whenever he fights, I look for his fight. Whenever I know he's fighting, I look where his fights are, and I make sure that I keep myself available to tune into that. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that. Canada's own, right? Like so, we got three Canadian fighters, if I'm not mistaken. Mark Mallott, Mark Andre, and Jourdain, and also the other two female fighters. Um, who are also fighting in that card in the prelims. They are also from Canada. So yeah,
Yeah, great local flavour as well. Yeah, first huge pay per view in Canada for a while. I think
yeah,
it's got fireworks written all over it, and no doubt we will break it down, recap it early next week after the weekend, and also give it our grade like we do. We
absolutely.
grade each pay per view on its wow factor, on its
Yeah,
yeah action delivery, all of that. No
yeah,
doubt. But yeah,
yeah,
DJ, let's look at also some announcements, and then we'll talk a little bit about the card, the first the first fight night of the year. But with that
yeah.
said, we got the first announcement I want to get your thoughts on, which was from Dana White,
Man, it
UFC
just
300 BMF title on the line. Take it
this
away.
came, this came out of nowhere, man. Like this, we were speaking behind the scenes. We were talking about how UFC 300 is going to shape. I mean, I was adamant for the most part of it, especially after Oliveira versus Sarukian was announced that okay, they're making Gaethje versus Islam. It lines up with Islam's timeline. I don't buy this Islam's injured and all that. We were talking about it. Now I'm inclined to believe that Islam's definitely injured because there's no way he would have passed this unless they were trying to save him for the Abu Dhabi card. Man, Gaethje versus Holloway for the BMF title. I mean, from starting to say it was one and done to now, the fight. Now we're up to the point where they're defending the belt, right? So it's interesting. Like, what is the criteria for this title? We don't know. Like, because you can't have, like, the BMF could be from any division, right? We've got multiple BMFs in every division. We've seen that. Like, do they then start introducing one for every division? How does this work? Just from a matchup perspective, man, what more can you ask as a fight fan? What more can you ask for? Because you got two extremely talented fighters who go in and give it their all. Right, two of the most entertaining fighters in the UFC roster coming together. And I mean, if you thought Gaethje versus Poirier was epic for that BMF title, have this for the title defense of BMF. Like, I mean, absolutely deserving. I do want to hold to that fact that the BMF top. There are many BMFs across this UFC roster, but these two gentlemen are definitely deserving to be fighting for that title.
Yeah, man, fireworks personified. I think uh, I agree with you on the BMF sort of niche, the cliches of it all. But I think if two guys are going to be able to sell it, it's two guys with not only the history on the board, the wow factor, but they can both say that they are BMFs because they've
Yeah,
both been in wars. Like everyone buys it. Like Max
yeah,
Holloway will literally die in the cage, and
yeah,
so will Gaethje as well.
yeah.
So I'm really feeling like this one's going to be a finish. What do you think?
It has to be a finish, right? Like, I can't see this go the distance. I know so far we've had two BMF fights. One obviously ended in a finish, but unceremoniously due to a doctor stoppage. The other one was a head kick, Salt Lake City, head kick city, I like to call it. This one, man, like, I mean, if anyone predicts a decision, like, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a decision. I mean, we'll predict the fight closer to the date, but we might even have to do the UFC 300 preview in two parts, man. It's just going to be so packed, even the 299 one, because the card's so packed. But fuck, man, like, excited. It's gonna be epic. I do not think that's. I don't think that's the main event. I don't think they've come in announcing this is the main event, but it adds value, man. Like, you got Weili Zhang's fighting for the title. You're definitely going to get, I guess, at least another two more title fights in there. And then you also got the BMF title in that card. Like, obviously, they're shaping UFC 300 to be epic. And I see on the screen now you've got the graphics for Jim Miller, which is Bobby Green, where, like, as an MMA fan, as a UFC fan, the desire to see Jim Miller in that 300 card, not just me, I think, the whole MMA community joins us in this, is that to want to see him there. Now we get that wish, God forbid nothing happens and they're both healthy, a fight takes place. He's been in UFC 100, 200, and 300. That's an amazing feat in itself. But he's also performing at the highest level, man. I know we're going to talk about this recently completed card soon, but he not only did he win his last fight last Sunday, but he finished that fight. He submitted another young up and comer, and then he's now ready to turn around and start fighting again in April. So that's pretty impressive, man. Like, I think, again, like, we're talking about BMFs, there you go, throw another name. These guys, both these guys are BMFs too. So another solid addition to UFC 300.
This is crazy. Yeah, this is going to be so good, this card. But yeah, this is one for the OGs because yeah, just two guys with huge respect, around the community, from fans, from other fighters, guys that just are professionals, but they leave it all out there, which you love. They got that personality that you root for as well. So yeah, DJ, this one I'm really looking forward to as well, and no doubt, like you said, yeah, we're gonna get more announcements, which is making me think. Like, I heard some people speculate that um, that this one, the Gaethje Holloway, would be a perfect co-main, but now I'm starting to think like the UFC might even go bigger. This might not even be a co-main.
I mean, look, we know we're definitely getting the welterweight fight, right? Because Leon Edwards came and said, "Look, I'm going to be fighting in UFC 300." Right now, we don't know if that's the main event. I don't think John Jones is going to be ready. So Bilal Muhammad versus Leon Edwards probably will be another title fight that'll be added. I feel like they will try and get these two guys who are fighting this weekend, the middleweight champ, to do a turnaround. Like it's January, right? So you technically have 3 months to prepare. It's a decent camp, especially if like both these guys are game to fight anytime, anywhere. Especially Strickland, like short turnarounds are nothing because he enjoys fighting. The more he does it, he said that makes him happy. Imagine if Strickland fights and they run the rematch with Izzy on 300. That'll be huge, right? And or if Dricus wins, imagine that. Like this is that fight that was teased all along, the bad blood fight. So I feel like, I mean, look, I'm gonna make a bold prediction here. I feel like, yeah, we'll get the middleweight title fight to probably be the main event because I can't see. I mean, unless they bring Conor McGregor for that, but then Conor McGregor's come out and announced July. But then Dana White recently has said, look, yes, Connor's fighting this year, but when, where, who is not confirmed yet. So it's just mixed messages, and we know whenever Conor McGregor comes and makes these announcements, we do take a little bit of salt, a grain of salt, because he's so big, obviously, so he tends to take sometimes matters into his own hands. So we don't know. It was interesting though that Dana said we don't know which opponent because you've tagged Chandler along all this time, and he hasn't fought. Chandler's another exciting fighter, right? Like he hasn't fought in a while, so yeah. So I don't know, but I like the speculation game that's going on because we're trying to see who will be main eventing UFC 300. That's just going to be epic.
Yeah, bigger, badder than ever. And I think there might be
Yeah,
some surprises in store where I think we
yeah,
might see, like you
I,
said, a stacked main event, but then there might be a surprise like novelty fight, like Brock Lesnar or someone just comes in
yeah.
for a
No,
one fight deal.
didn't Dennis say there's a big surprise return in there? So it's definitely not Khabib. He's confirmed that. So I don't think it's Brock Lesnar, but I'm keen to see who it is. But he said this surprise comeback could be. You know what? Actually, I think it's going to be Mike Perry. I think
Nate?
Mike Perry because he's spoken about. Oh yeah, Nate could be one, but Mike Perry, went live on air and spoke on call with Hunter Campbell, and Hunter Campbell was saying, "Yeah, we got something planned." So maybe that. Which is not, man, Mike Perry is one of those fighters who's gone out of the UFC, similar to Francis Ngannou, and built a bigger name now, right? He's become a household name in combat sports, and him coming back would add a lot of value as well. And then, hey, another fight that could main event is the light heavyweight fight because Alex Pereira said fight news soon, right? So what?
And
And
Khabib did
imagine.
as I mean, sorry, Hamzat did as well.
Ooh, man, this is. Could you imagine if they? I don't think. Okay, there Hamsat's in the in the sidelines as well. Like he's in the middleweight title picture too. I know both these guys have dismissed that notion of Hamzat fighting next for the title. But you never know, man. The UFC usually gets to do what they want to do. From a fan perspective, outside of like whether he's fought contenders or not, he was scheduled to fight Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa pulled out. So, but man, Hamzat's another exciting fighter. Ooh, I can't wait, man. Like, imagine that. Imagine if Alex Pereira's in there, Hamzat's in there. Ooh, UFC 300, like, it'll be hard to top. Like, at the moment, to be honest, because we haven't seen the full 300 card, I still feel UFC 299 is solid. Right? They need something, big to surpass that. So I'm keen to see what that means for 300. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, more announcements to come. And like you said, he's going to deliver. And I think he said the prelims would be, you're going to look at fights on the prelims and you're going to probably think that it's deserving of a main card on on other normal pay-per-views as well. Um,
Yep.
but yep, so let's round out the show with just getting your thoughts on some results from the first fight night of the year as I bring up the card. Obviously
Yep.
headlined by Ankalev with Walker.
Yep.
We saw a huge result there. What does that mean?
Yeah, man. Like, I mean, it was what was like. I think the vast majority of the people expected the fight to go the way it did, or at least like an Ankalaev win. It was stopped short, very similar to many of Ankalaev's, unfortunate events across his, fighting career. There've been disqualifications, there've been draws, some bad decisions going his way, all of these things. And then we are at Johnny Walker, who's a wild man, one of your favorite fighters. You've met him in person. Um, the first fight, like I mean, Johnny Walker's a huge man. When you look at like he was almost bigger than Ankalaev. I was expecting it to be a high paced fight because there seemed to be a respectful um, sort of animosity, you can say, between the two of them. And what what surprised me the most is sort of the way Johnny Walker fought the second time. He was a little bit reckless. I felt like once you've understood and been there with Ankalaev the first time around, I was expecting he'd fight a little bit more measured. He came out all guns blazing, which is fair enough. But then Ankalaev, being the veteran he is, rode that out, and then he was able to pick his shots and sort of win the round, and then come in and get the knockout. It's scary to see the power he possesses, and we know how good he's as a wrestler. I think he's a tough matchup for Alex Pereira. I would like to think he's next for the title. The only person who should jump him, if ever, it'll be Jamal Hill if he's ready to fight, because Jamal Hill never lost the belt. He had to vacate it because of an injury. So if he's ready to fight, he should be next in line because he never lost it. And then Ankalaev should wait it out and fight the winner of that. That's purely it. So um, light heavyweight is looking good, man. Like, you got Ankalaev in the sidelines, you got Alex Pereira, Yuri Prokashka, Rakic's back fighting Prokashka. Jamal Hill could be ready for 300. We never know, man. Like, it's interesting to see all this. So yeah, so it's exciting times to be an MMA fan. The other noteworthy thing I want to mention in that card was, again, just reiterate Jim Miller getting that win. Being the veteran he is. So yeah, impressive. And called
Yeah,
out Paul Felder, but obviously that's not happening. He's fighting Bobby Green, which I think is a good fight. But yeah,
yeah, I'm glad that got made really quick on the momentum of Jim Miller's win, as you
yeah,
said. But yeah, the fight, yeah, Ankalev's really impressed me. He's a guy, yeah, deserving. He's going to get a shot soon.
yeah,
But Johnny Walker, yeah, built up, a lot of momentum. He's still in a good place.
yeah,
I think he lost to, yeah, a really good fighter, a better guy on the night.
yeah.
But yeah, whenever Walker seems to lose, DJ, it just seems to always be by knockout.
Yeah.
He's a product of him just being an all-in kind of reckless kind of
That's the
risk
thing.
taker.
He just either takes risks or hangs back too much. It's either one of these when we see in his fights. Is to say it in layman's term, he either goes or doesn't go. That's it. And in this instance, he was just way too reckless. And Ankalaev, you could see, like, he started slow. He was just observing on the back foot, and then when he realized, he got a measure of what Walker was trying to do, he got his timing right, and started flipping it around. Like, there was a low blow in this fight as well. I thought, oh, please don't stop this again. But yeah, um, uh, it's unfortunate. But again, the division is such at the moment that there's a lot of movement, right? Maybe you're just a couple of wins. Johnny Walker's still a young guy. Maybe it's just a couple of wins away from bouncing back. I think he just needs to find that balance, measured aggression.
Yeah, you learn from defeats as
Yeah,
well. Yeah, some people say you don't learn much from winning; you learn more from
yeah,
defeats. So that is something you can take back to training,
yeah,
and continue to work on. It's a craft. These guys, also like all sports, it's matchup dependent. Yeah,
yeah,
you could go on a really nice streak because you're in good form, but you're fighting guys that you got the edge on.
yeah,
Then it's harder the closer you get to the top, and you start to fight highly ranked opponents who have also had a lot of losses under their belt, or who have learnt from their mistakes as
yeah,
well. So then it's kind of like sharpened knife versus another sharpened knife.
yeah. Yeah, no, man. Like, you make a great point. Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And I think, um, look, I think Johnny Walker said it himself. Like, you're fighting high level guys. It's not, you're not fighting amateurs here. So every single person's a top level fighter. Like, you're in the UFC, you're ranked in the top 10, especially in the top 5, top 10. You're the best in the world. So when you fight the best in the world, when the best fight the best, you're destined to lose. There is no shame in that. But yeah, look, I do hope that he sort of looks within his sort of game planning and understands to like sort of maybe measure that aggression, sort of be less reckless in his approach.
Yep, definitely. I think we'll see a lot more excitement from those two anyway. At least, yeah. Miller we get
Yeah,
to see in 300. Yeah,
yeah,
the rest of the card. Yeah, so it was a solid fight night for me. Let's wrap this up, and I look
yeah,
forward to the recap of the 297
yeah,
Canada at the Scotiabank Arena. It's a
yeah.
good time zone for us, which is good. We get to start the year. What are your final thoughts and looking forward to after the
Man, I'm
event?
looking forward to the main event. Simple, straight up excited. I'll be tuning in. We'll be chatting as always while the card's on. Man, expecting some fireworks for that main event. So yeah,
Yep, let's hope it delivers. We give it a huge grade. And thanks everyone for joining us in this conversation. Second episode of the year, and we'll be back early next week for the recap. CT and DJ, peace.
peace.